Under the clear, deep skies of ancient Middle Eastern civilizations, the silhouette of a crescent moon reigned in the heavens and in people's beliefs. Long before it was associated with the Islamic faith, it represented something completely different, an ancient god, guardian of time and night. This god was known as Nanna by the Sumerians, later called Sin. He was much more than an image in the sky. He was a divine presence that ruled the cycles, influenced kings, and organized daily life. Nanna's influence was vast. His temples were not only places of worship, but true centers of knowledge. In cities such as Ur and Haran, his majestic buildings stood with purpose and precision. In these structures, priests tracked the stars, established calendars, and determined the sacred times for planting and harvesting. The moon, under Nanna's command, dictated the rhythms of existence. Time was measured not only in days and nights, but in lunar phases that guided the lives of the people. His ancestry also spoke volumes about his power. Son of Enlil, a deity associated with the control of the elements and human destiny, Nanna played a crucial role in the balance of celestial forces. His symbol, the crescent moon, became sacred. Engraved on seals, walls, and offerings, the emblem of the moon god spread with his influence, reaching lands far beyond Sumer. From Akkad to the far reaches of trade routes, the name Nanna Sin carried respect and devotion. Over time, his presence was also felt in the desert regions of the Arabian Peninsula. As his cult migrated, his form began to adapt. In Mecca, long before the advent of Islam, another figure emerged, Baal. Although different in name, many scholars believe that he retained traces of Nanna Sin. His image was placed inside the Kaaba, an ancient cube-shaped sanctuary, already a central point of tribal worship. This structure, formerly known as Baka, was not dedicated to a single god, but housed hundreds of idols. Each tribe worshipped its own gods, gathering annually to worship, make offerings, and renew alliances. The circular processions around the Kaaba reflected the cycles of the moon, a symbolic continuation of the celestial worship inherited from earlier times. The crescent moon did not disappear with the fall of the temples of Nanna. It simply transformed, survived time, crossed eras, and reappeared in new contexts. It was still there, silent, accompanying the transition from polytheism to monotheism. When the worship of multiple gods was gradually replaced by a single faith centered on Allah, the symbol of the crescent moon was not discarded. It persisted as a discreet, subtle, but powerful legacy. During the 5th century of our era, the deserts of Arabia were the scene of intense spiritual diversity. Christianity, Judaism, Zoroastrianism, and a myriad of tribal cults coexisted, often intertwining in common practices. And among these practices, Mecca already occupied a central position. The city was a point of convergence, where lunar rituals marked the sacred calendar, and where, once a year, even rival tribes laid down their weapons to walk together around the Kaaba. This annual gathering took place at the beginning of each new lunar cycle. The number of idols, 360, seemed to echo the days of the solar year, suggesting a mathematical and astronomical intention behind the cults. Some scholars see this as an attempt to unite heaven and earth, spirituality and science, myth and observation. Each statue, each carved name, each offering made in Mecca revealed a piece of ancient history that, even if forgotten in words, lived on in symbols. The rise of Islam would erase many names, but not all traces. The question that remains is whether the crescent moon remained by chance or was intentionally preserved. Had the ancients left signs that would outlive the gods they represented? Among the many names whispered in the sands of ancient Arabia, one resonated louder within the walls of the Kaaba, Baal. He was considered the chief deity among the Quraysh, the tribe charged with the custody of that sanctuary. His idol, possibly carved in human form, occupied the center of the structure, as if overseeing the rituals that took place there. Some ancient accounts suggest that the Kaaba itself, in this pre-Islamic period, had been dedicated primarily to him. With the rise of Hubal, Mecca went from a place of tribal worship to a spiritual center of continental reach. Before his altar, divination ceremonies were performed using arrows, a practice steeped in mystery and destiny. People sought answers. Which path to follow? Which decision to make? The arrows pointed to what the gods wanted. This form of oracle reflected not only local beliefs, but a shared sense that destiny could be consulted and perhaps shaped. Scholars point to a possible connection between Hubal and Baal, a Canaanite deity of ancient repute. Among the Phoenicians, Baal was the ruler of the heavens, associated with storms, fertility, and war. His influence spread like the waves of the Mediterranean Sea, reaching ports, mountains, and deserts. It is possible that, over time, echoes of the cult of Baal crossed borders until they merged with the identity of Hubal. Distinct names, but with traits that suggest common roots, perhaps a divine lineage inherited from even more remote traditions. An episode recounted by Ibn Kathir sheds light on the tension between different religious views of the time. When Abd al-Muttalib, a direct ancestor of the Prophet Muhammad, decided to excavate and restore the ancient well of Zamzam, he encountered fierce resistance from the Quraysh themselves. Those devoted to Hubal interpreted the act as an affront. To overcome the impasse, Abd al-Muttalib made a solemn vow. If he had 10 sons and they all survived, he would sacrifice one as an offering to his god. It was a radical promise, reflecting the depth of ancient rituals. The similarities with the myths of Baal go beyond names. Among the legends surrounding this Canaanite figure, the confrontation with Yam, the god of the sea, stands out. A battle for order against chaos. Baal would also face death personified, Maat, trying to secure his dominion. To please him, ancient peoples built temples in cities and on hills, places where sacrifices were made to ensure abundance, security, and divine protection. Some accounts even speak of human offerings. The worship of Baal was intense and controversial. The Hebrew scriptures portray Baal as a dangerous rival to Yahweh. His presence among the Israelites was seen as spiritual deviation. Prophets denounced his cults as symbols of betrayal and moral decay. But Baal's origin seems to point even further east. For those who study Mesopotamian mythology, traces of Baal echo in the figure of Enlil, ruler of the heavens, god of storms, and leader of the Anunnaki. Both commanded respect. Both were seen as intermediaries between heaven and earth. Devotion to these gods demanded offerings. Perhaps the sacrifices were not just rituals, but desperate attempts to maintain order in the face of forces seen as unstable and relentless. And it is in this scenario of intense faith that an object stands out, whose origin still intrigues believers and skeptics alike: the black stone, Al-Hajar al-Aswad. Embedded in the eastern corner of the Kaaba, the dark stone is touched by millions of faithful every year, kissed, revered, surrounded by prayers. But where did it come from? Muslim accounts say that Ibrahim and Ismail, when erecting the sacred structure, asked for a special stone to mark a crucial point in the construction. And then the angel Jibril brought it from the heavens. It was white, pure, and luminous, but when touched by the sins of humanity, it darkened. Today, all that can be seen are fragments wrapped in silver. In 930, during the height of a sectarian revolt, the Carmatians invaded Mecca and took the stone as a trophy. They kept it away from its place for more than 2 decades. When it returned, it was no longer whole. The fractures left visible and invisible marks. The question remains, What is it really? Some scholars suggest that it may be a meteorite. Other analyses speak of basalt or glass generated by impact. The fact is that in ancient cultures, stones from the sky have always been regarded as divine gifts, symbols of the connection between the high and the low, between the divine and the earthly. If it is true that the black stone predates Islam, and if it is indeed connected to older cults, it may be the last physical witness to a spiritual past buried under new doctrines. What if it is more than just an object? What if it is linked, directly or indirectly, to the celestial beings of Sumerian accounts? In that case, its presence in the Kaaba would not be a coincidence, but a silent sign left by those who once walked as gods among men. Some claim that the Kaaba itself, with its precise proportions and unique geographical position, holds more than religious symbolism. Its cubic shape, simple at first glance, may contain geometric principles inherited from archaic traditions, perhaps even predating written history. Some scholars speculate that it is located at an energetic intersection, a kind of crossroads between the earthly and the celestial. In this context, the black stone would not be just a sacred relic, but something that transcends our current understanding. If it really is a cosmic fragment, or perhaps a remnant of forgotten technology, then its presence in the Kaaba would not be by chance. It would be there for a purpose, hidden by the veil of time and devotion, an artifact left behind by beings who not only observed the heavens, but came from them, bringing with them instruments, knowledge, and symbols that we are still trying to decipher today. A visible piece of a puzzle that may have shaped the very structures of our spirituality. In today's monotheistic religions, Allah and Yahweh are understood as expressions of the same supreme being. Despite their linguistic and cultural differences, both figures represent the one God who created, sustains, and judges the universe. But there are currents that see in these modern names reflections of even older figures. Yahweh carries in his essence the regulating and justifying force of Enlil, while the lunar, rhythmic, and cosmic aspects of Allah recall the ancestral influence of Nanna. This correspondence does not seem to be a coincidence. The ancient Sumerian gods, the so-called Anunnaki, were deeply connected to the heavens, literally. Their name, translated as those who came from above, reinforces the idea that the origin of spiritual authority was in the stars. And the temples built in their honor were not random. They were meticulously aligned with constellations, moon phases, and planetary movements. The sky was not a backdrop. It was a sacred map. In both the Anunnaki traditions and Abrahamic monotheism, the cosmos serves as a divine language. Every eclipse, every new lunar cycle, every conjunction is interpreted as part of a larger plan. There is no chance among the stars. There is only order, purpose, and design. If the Anunnaki shaped the earliest expressions of human spirituality, then the current names of God, Allah, Yahweh, may be refined versions of these ancient archetypes. The question arises, do current traditions represent a break with the past or a hidden continuity? What we call faith today may unwittingly carry the fingerprints of much earlier civilizations. The stories of Enlil and Nanna, their attributes, their symbols, may have been woven almost invisibly into the fabric of modern beliefs. Sacred texts have preserved echoes, ceremonies have maintained forms, and the stars unchanged continue to speak. Perhaps Yahweh and Allah are not the beginning of something new, but the last gasp of something that once walked among us, a distant reflection of a power that was once visible. The shadow of the Anunnaki has not disappeared. It is engraved in stone, in papyrus, in traditions repeated for centuries. It is in the heavens we still observe in search of meaning. And while reason searches for answers, another memory resurfaces, something intimate, almost forgotten. It is not a theory, it is not a divine name, it is a memory. The light of the moon, the sound of the wind, the gentle movement of water, a face, a touch, a love that was lost, or perhaps just left behind. And even though time insists on erasing, some things insist on remaining. Love, pain, absence, that which cannot be explained by logic or measured by reason. Because there are truths that are not spoken, only felt, and among them, one certainty refuses to disappear. I don't want to forget. Not what I saw, nor what I felt. Not the light that once shone in my eyes. Not the darkness that came after. Because to forget would be to lose everything. And there are things that, even when they are gone, remain alive within us.